Ladies and gentlemen, we're back. So I'm feeling real good. Awesome. Oh, where's my... so dusty. Okay. Alright. Ladies and gentlemen, we're back. I'm feeling in much higher spirits than I was when I first hopped on here. For some personal life updates, I did my interview, and I'm gonna get a second interview, but this one's a working interview, so I have to go work, but it does suck. I have to do a day's worth of pay just to prove I can work there, but you know, private contractor, all that good jazz, you know. That went well. On some lighter news, and I've been seeing multiple live streams on social media. I've been seeing a lot of sorry, I was reading shit. Oh, I'm sneezing. I've been seeing multiple live streams. There has been many of protests for Nicole Ray Goodman. It has been doing really well. I'm going to try to, if I find one, a lot of the ones that I have been seeing are people who are walking down the street right now, currently, to protest on the same street that Renee Goodman was murdered. And if you want to fight me on that, oh, baby, we can talk about it. But I digress. Let's see. Renee Nicole Goodman. Protest. I've been trying to find protest Endeavor, and I'll show you guys what I found. Oh, it's not. Is that? Because that is where I'm currently located. I have found a lot of, this isn't really what I wanted. I found an article, and I don't know if I can find, was it Westward? Yes, here it is. So tomorrow at January 9, there's going to be a protest at the Capitol building. If you are in the Denver location, please go support our fellow citizens in a very civil protest. It's going to start at 6 p.m. So if you can get there when you can, maybe after work if you can, unless you work night shift, totally understand. Definitely try to go support, try to go make your voice heard. Even if it feels insignificant, because, oh my God, so many people are going to be there anyway. Numbers matter. Numbers matter, especially in such a politically violent political standpoint. It's important for us to remember that there is more than just us, you know, especially in our liberal folks that are in very heavily red areas, or vice versa. It's good to remember that protesting is not just for you, but it's for those people who cannot. Ironically, I'm not answering this because I don't want to deal with it. Ironically, I just got a phone call from my very right brother, which that's just funny to me. I'm not dealing with that right now though. But let's get into this. So there's a protest tomorrow. If you want to join, feel free. I'm also I'm gonna put, where is the Renee, I'm gonna add the Renee Goodman, fundraiser. Oh my God. Fundraiser, for the family in the description. Yes. Wife and son. They are already at $1 million raised. Wow, just amazing to see that, and to see how much support there is. This brings me... I will also be donating after stream, but I do want to get that link in the description for y'all, just real quick. So it's going to be that first link that I post. So feel free, please donate if you can. If you can't, understood. It is no problem, you know. So will be, that is in the Twitch description. If you're watching on YouTube, just let me know. I will figure out how to get that out there. I don't know how. Okay, what is happening? Okay. I don't know what's happening. Which is being weird. Which is always being, StreamYabs is being weird. Ignore that. So, a lot of good protesting coming out. A lot of good things going. Luckily, even though the world is I think I started this morning feeling like the world was really burning. It was really kind of hard to see this situation and feel like it's okay, but I feel like these protests, these outcries of pain by the communities, even people who didn't know her, even, it's so good to see that and remember that, okay, it's not all fucked. It's not all bad. I definitely want to talk, I want to see if there's any live streams maybe I can post up. I would love to give some, ignore my, I want to see if there's any live streams. Maybe we can see, just kind of have that in the background. I do want to take this time to research about specific things. Mainly, I want to research about a lot of the issues with ICE, the reason ICE is such a bad thing, the reason that we are processing protest live. Yes. Okay. Here is a... I want to keep this...
We are going to say justice! Justice for Renee Nicole Good!
I'm going to put this in the background just so we have this here, so you guys are well informed of what's going on during those protests. A lot of times,
I said of everywhere! I said of everywhere! Give it up for Naomi!
I just kind of want to turn it up a little bit.
Justice for...
Okay, we're going to mute that for a little bit. Just so we have it in the background, mainly because I'm A, worried about retaliation from political forces, such as police or ICE members themselves. I've already seen, I didn't save it, and I'm sad I saw it, but you'll have to trust me with word of mouth if you want to take it as a grain of salt. That's so fair. But I did see a post where there was policemen kicking over memorials for Renee Good. It is so interesting. I think this has brought out a crazy uproar of people. I think this has fundamentally changed a lot of people's brain chemistry. I think seeing an obviously this has been happening for years, but in such a blatant manner of misuse of justice, in such a public space, in such a way of basically spitting on the American citizens of, this is allowed, that we're allowed to do this, that they can get away with this. I think this is just so hard for a lot of people to see, myself included. It's so honestly disgusting, really, to experience this. And I think people are going to be coming out. I am afraid that a lot of these protests are going to get stopped. I will also be, I don't know if I still can, but if I can live stream on TikTok, I will see if I can live stream the protest that I'm going to go to tomorrow. Hopefully, in theory, I will be able to, and it will all be okay. But let's get right into it for our research. We'll keep that up in the side page. I also think I do want to see how it's handled. Obviously, I can't imagine being a citizen of Minneapolis, and I mean, obviously, I think this pain has been felt across the nation, but I can't imagine that happening in my own backyard. The devastation that you have to feel, and the fact that all of them are out when it's probably freezing. Actually, let's see the weather in Minneapolis right now. Let's see. It's about 34 degrees. Okay. 27 for all my Celsius lovers. God, it's so cold. And they're still, like, they're out there. They're gonna stay out there. They're going to protest probably all night. Because this is such a tragedy. This is such a sad loss of life. No matter how you say it, no matter how you do, I find it very funny. I've seen a lot of sentiment from the right who were up in arms about Charlie Kirk's assassination. Don't get me wrong. Oh, I did just do that. One sec. My apologies. I didn't mean to do that. I was just trying to clear up my tabs. Talk a lot about how it's such an awful thing that he died in the way that he did, and don't get me wrong, it did, but not the same outcry and outroar for your fellow citizen is very interesting. There's a lot of hypocrisy there, personally, that I've noticed. Let's get into the facts. I can talk all day till Sunday about how awful our administration is, and the fact that we have a party that could care less about empathy and the fellow citizen. But I digress. I think we should just move on to the facts. So, main issues with ICE, a lot of U.S. citizens being detained by ICE. Has been a major issue. I want to get kind of a number on that. ICE doesn't target errors and mistakes identifying causes such as undocumented wrongful detention and reporting cases. So let's see, ProPublica. Kind of move that up here. Can y'all still see that? Let me double check before Oh, you aren't able to see that. Only I can see it. Alright, well, I will let you guys know if there's any changes. I'm watching the Minneapolis protests up in the top right corner for myself. Just so I will let you know, and if anything changes, I'll switch over to that tab. But we'll continue with our research first and foremost. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. Oh. Okay. Huh? Alright. Okay. I don't want to... Okay. I don't want my face being in the way. That's the main thing. I'm not egotistical. Or at least try not to be. They're not locked. Let me move them. Okay. Streamlabs hates me. Which sounds just about right. They don't want... If I was a crazy conspiracy theorist, I would say they don't want me to speak my truth. Which maybe that is the case. Why is it not letting me move that? That's so weird. It's like not letting me move it whatsoever. One sec. Oh, intermission. doesn't. This is an intermission. You can see me. How's that? How is this intermission? It's fine. I guess. I don't know. I don't know why I'm not allowed to move this. It's in like the least convenient spot it possibly could be for this article, but you're just gonna have to trust my words, I guess. Sorry about that. I wish it would let me fucking be really cool if it did its job, but apparently that's too much to ask for. Okay. We found more than 170 U.S. citizens have been held by immigration agents, and they have been kicked, dragged, and detained for days. Let's get us a political biased tracker before we even get started, just to give you guys that knowledge before I go. You're out of... I have to pay these hoes? Huh? I have to pay... I have to pay y'all? I mean, it's not that much. Okay, wait, one sec. One moment. I should pay them. They do a great service. Wait, one moment. Fuck. Alright. Intermission doesn't... Sorry about that. We got there. Well, a little bit of technical difficulties, you know. It is what it is. It is what it is. Let me just get into it real quick.
And what's your name?
Griselda Perez Percy.
Riselda, was it?
Yes.
Riselda. All right. JT Siskowski for Status Coup here with Riselda. Riselda, could you start just by spelling your name for me?
Briselda.
Lovely. Thank you.
So that was the audio from the live stream. I was just watching it for 0.5 seconds. But let's go back to what we were doing. Let's see the article biases. My assumption is that it is going to be leaning a little, yes, very left. Due to critical tone of immigration enforcement policies under Trump provision, the language is used to emotive paints a negative picture of immigration agents, highlighting instances of alleged misconduct and abuse. The article emphasizes the negative impact on U.S. citizens, particularly those of Latino descent, and accountability and oversight. The narratives is framed to underscore the system's issues, injustice, and aligning on left. Okay, I mean, just so you guys know. That's what we're reading off. It is a very left-leaning reporting highlights. Mainly, I just want to get kind of a number from them more than their talking points. Reporting highlights, Americans detained. The government does not track how many citizens are held by immigration agents. We have found more than 170 cases this year where citizens were detained and raided at raids and protests. Held in I can't say that word. More than 20 citizens have reported being held over a day without able to call their loved ones or lawyers. In some cases, their families could not find them. Agents have arrested about 130 Americans, including a dozen elected officials, for allegedly interfering for assaulting officers, yet those cases were often dropped. I'm not going to speak on the last bit, but the fact, so 170 cases, this year. 170 cases. This article was written October of 2025. That's not even the full year. That is less than a year of 170 U.S. citizens being held by immigration agents. It's I also, I want to go over protest info that you guys should know and other things. I'm just kind of going through this and reading a little bit. ICE agents, illegal alien from Mexico, Baltimore, Maryland, wrongfully detained, ICE reunited. So, there are specific cases. We should talk about a specific, I know the Maryland woman. This is released 5 hours ago, so this must be a very recent case. I do believe we should talk about it, if it is here. I'm finding a lot of this. So let's see. This is on Fox, which will be interesting to see what their take on it is. I don't think I really need a bias checker, but I will do it anyway for the sake of prosperity. I also think I've been mostly reading left-leaning articles. I think it is time I read a right-leaning article. Yes! Oh, this is centered. This article maintains a relatively neutral tone, primarily focusing on the facts of the cases involving the wrongful detention of Maryland women by ICE. Language is used as straightforward reporting on the events and the statements of both women's attorney on ICE. Alright, this is a good article. Good. Focus on the factual recounting as you making them fall within the center of the bias scale. Alright, this is a good article. Good. I'm glad we found it. A good one. So, attorneys for Silver Spring woman who was wrongfully detained by the United States Immigration and Customs Enforcement in December says that she has been reunited with her family. Deuce Carlos Diaz Morales. If I messed any of that up, I extremely apologize. Went viral in December after attorneys took to social media alleging that she was taken into custody by ICE despite being an American citizen born in Maryland. The stories were viewed by millions of times online, sparking outrage across the nation. The statement, I can confirm that she has been reunited with her family late tonight thanks to the assistance of members of the legal team. All of our cases remain in active litigation. Sabrina and Associates tells Fox 5. Her attorneys have consistently said they have indisputable proof that she is in the country legally. In news conference following Diaz Morales' detainment, her lawyers stated that she has a watermarked birth certificate indicating she was born in Laurel MD Hospital that serves as a confirmation of her citizenship, along with the signed affidavits from witnesses among their documents. On December 14th, Diaz Morales and her sisters were leaving a Baltimore Taco Bell last month. Dude, it's always the fucking Taco Bell, bro. I fuck up with Taco Bell. I love Taco Bell. Last month, when they were stopped by ICE, she was taken into custody and her family were unable to see her for weeks. Her attorneys also noted that they were unable to talk to her for days and noted their frustration with the lack of access to their client. We have not been given any information as she is detained for or why she has continued to be held despite the prima facie evidence providing otherwise, Attorney Victorian Salton said following the detainment. In a statement provided by Fox 5, ICE directly contradicted the family and attorney's assertion about Diaz Morales' citizenship and access to attorneys. Deluz Cosilo Madrigal Diaz is not a U.S. citizen. She's an illegal alien from Mexico. She did not provide a U.S. birth certificate or any evidence to support her claims that she is a U.S. citizen. On December 14th, ICE arrests Deluz Cosilo Madrigal Diaz, an illegal alien from Mexico in Baltimore, Maryland, on October 20th, 2023, when the CBP encountered her near Lukeville, Arizona. Madrigal Diaz claimed she was a citizen of Mexico and she was born October 2003. Her case is being adjusted as she's receiving full due process. Any allegations that ICE does not allow detainees to contact legal assistance is false. All detainees have access to phones and can communicate with lawyers. Remember, that is a quote from someone. That is not straight fact. All of this section is what ICE said about the situation. It is not immediately clear why she was released on Wednesday or if she continues to face legal action from ICE. It's a developing story. And this is just ones of there is multiple. I would like to get through more than one case. I also want to talk about this. This is a PDF from the International Services copy. I want to talk about this, which is what to do if ICE does stop you. If you know your rights, it's undefined. I think that is purely because it is a PDF. I'm not gonna lie to you. So I don't think the tracker can read that. So we're just gonna go into this blind. But this is from the American Immigration Lawyers Association. So know your rights if ICE stops you in public. 1, you have the right to ask if you are under arrest or free to leave. 2, you have the right to remain silent. You are not required to show immigration documents. 4, you may refuse a search. You may refuse a search if you... Sorry, I was reading the under bits. Number 5, you have the right to speak to a lawyer. Number 6, you do not have to sign anything. And number 7, if you believe your rights have been violated, write down what happened or ask a witness to do so, including specific details like names, badge numbers, and exactly what they said or done. Report the violation to a lawyer or an immigration rights organization. So this is very like cut and dry. You are never required to show your police document or your documentation. You do not have to do so. That is not a requirement. You have the right to speak to a lawyer. Stay silent. And if you are not under arrest, you are free to leave. You are always feel free to walk away calmly. If they do grab you, have that documented. That is against your rights as a citizen. So here are some good ones. These are... You're also not required to let ICE into your home. You are always allowed to... unless they have a valid search warrant. Also, double check the search warrants. I know a lot of ICE members have been just kind of showing a blank document that does not mean anything. Do check. Even if they say they do not let them in. Ask to be given the paper. Ask to see it. If you have a trouble with English, I would suggest having a translator app on you at all times. Even if it's not the best, it's better than not knowing what's being said to you. Some good tips and tricks. Let's go back to. Let's go back to the Maryland woman, Deleuze. I'm saying her name wrong. I'm just gonna say Miss Diaz, and I'm sorry. If I heard someone say it, I could do it. I just can't. My head doesn't work like that. Case. Let's see, the Washington Post. Are you gonna stop me? Do I not get to... Is the Washington Post stopping me? Oh my god. Oh my god. I hate this shit. Alright, I guess we can't use the Washington Post anymore. Apparently I used all my things. It's a very small article. I don't feel like that's a good one for us to discuss. Yes. Okay. Amazing. This is ABC2's article on the case. This will be a good one for us to check. Article. Faces. Alright, this is a very left-leaning bias. This article exhibits a leans left bias through its critical portrayal of ICE and the Department of Homeland Security handling the Diaz case, Diaz-Morales case, detainment. The language that it uses suggests a sympathetic stance towards Diaz-Morales and her legal team's perspective, highlighting the perceived injustices and challenges faced by her. The article emphasizes the legal and procedural issues in her detainment, which aligns with the narrative often seen in left-leaning media that critiques immigration and enforcement. So, very left, a little bit more left-leaning than anything else. So understand that that's where we're starting with. That's where we're coming from. This was posted at 9 a.m. Last updated at 3 a.m. today, and the last updated at 3:22 p.m. Laurel MD, after missing both Christmas and New Year's while stuck in ICE detention, Ms. Diaz, a U.S. citizen, has been reunited with her family. Her lawyers say despite providing any primary documentation to prove her citizen status to the Department of Homeland Security, including a Maryland birth certificate, hospital records from Laurel Regional Hospital, medical affidavits, and immunization records, Diaz-Morales spent 25 days in ICE custody. We are very relieved that she's last back home, attorney Zachary Perez told WMR2 News. Diaz-Morales transferred 5 times over the course of 3 weeks to facilities in Baltimore, Louisiana, Texas, and finally New Jersey. 2 members of legal team and Sabrina's and Associates helped to return the young mother home on Wednesday. Her sister, Shirley Diaz, told reporters last month that a pair were leaving the Taco Bell in Baltimore City on December 14th. They saw a police officer and pulled over. It turned out to be Immigration and Customs Enforcement officers. DHS claimed that Diaz-Morales, referring to under a slightly different name, Deleuze Coluso Madrigal Diaz, is an illegal alien from Mexico, and stated that she did not provide any evidence to support U.S. citizenship. And let's remember, ladies and gentlemen, you are not required to show ICE documentation. That is not a requirement. You don't have to say a word to them unless they have a search warrant specifically for your arrest. So, let's remember that while we're reading this. Let's remember the AZ pointed out an encounter in 2023 where she stated she was a Mexican citizen while speaking with Border Patrol near Lakewood, Arizona. Deleuze Martinez, who many years in Mexico as a child, returned to the United States during an emergency without access to documentation. According to her attorneys, they believe she was mistakenly processed as a non-citizen, given a number, and placed into removal proceedings. The government has effectively shifted the burden onto the United States citizens to prove their citizenships while incarcerated. Diaz-Morales' counsel shared in a statement, this does become normalized, any citizen who lacks immediate access to paperwork and professional counsel becomes vulnerable to incarceration first and verification later. Which is not how due process works, Fun fact, you are innocent till proven guilty. We've all heard that. Unfortunately, we are not in normal times. Firmpong? CASA's legal director said, "This is a pattern in which ICE MO at this point is to arrest first, ask questions later, in their effort to further their more mass detention agenda." Diaz-Morales' attorney has raised other concerns about her confinement, which they say include denial of access to counsel, conditions where they were deeply troubling, uncertainty, and prolonged detention. A medical expert, they report, reviewed Diaz-Morales' records and confirmed they were both support continuing of care as an infant in her claim of citizenship. In December, Shirley Diaz said the ICE officers had stopped her and her sister, never identified themselves, nor explained the reason they were detained, only stating that they would only be taking Diaz-Morales because she is older in age. At one point, during the limited communications with her family, Diaz-Morales indicated that she was fearful she'd be deported. Her lawyers have pointed out, however, that risk still exists at this time. She remains under ICE supervision because DHS opposed counsel motion has refused to terminate. She still faces the threat of deportation. A statement from the council reads, "Until her proceedings are formally corrected and safeguards are enforced, Duluth's freedom remains conditional." DHS has not immediately responded to a request for comment at this time. Okay, let's sit with that for a sec. So she was walking outside. She was then detained, taken into ICE custody for 25 days without being I want another article on this story, because the part where it says one sec. The part where it said I want to briefly speak on. I want to know more about claim stating, which first and foremost, you do not have to state. We just discussed this. You do not have to have documentation on you everywhere you go. That is just not how U.S. citizenship works. He has claimed that Morales, referring to her under a slightly different name, is an illegal alien, stated that she did not provide evidence to support U.S. citizenship. That is not required. When ICE stops you, you don't have to show them jack nor shit. Unfortunately, due to a recent Supreme Court, I bet we've all heard of it, but unfortunately, due to a Supreme Court ruling back in Newman v. So this is the case between. This is just all the case documents. This is the Supreme Court ruling. NPR. Let's stop with them. I fuck with them heavy. Check another article. We'll talk about this briefly, just to get kind of a general sense. If the bias tracker would go. Just to give, I'll read the article, but I'll give an overview of what I know, is that the Supreme Court ruled in favor of ICE agents racially profiling someone in order to detain. This is exhibits left basis through its critical tone towards the Supreme Court's decisions and actions on ICE agents. The language is used to suggest disapproval of racial profiling that highlights the negative impact on Latino communities, portraying them as victims of the policy. The article emphasizes civil rights concerns and fear among immigrants, which aligns with left-leaning perspective on immigration and civil liberties. So, we are definitely leaning a little bit more left on this article. I did think NPR was a little bit better about that. Maybe I can find one that's a little bit, maybe I can find a little bit of a neutral hub. Maybe. Let's see what this one is. And if they both lean left, I don't. This is still pretty left. Okay, I think it's interesting that, so this bias tracker is basically reading the article and based off what it says is checking the biases. This isn't, and really that's hard to fight against when we're talking about this court case unless it is strictly neutral. Yeah, this is definitely gonna be more left leaning. I just wanna know. Okay, this will be a good one. I think. Copy. Hopefully, we'll see. Cause I want an article that's a little bit more neutral. I'm gonna try to find more neutral. I know I've been leaning more left on these issues. And I would like to find more objective, and so we can process the information more together. This is a little bit better, slightly. Not by much. I think no matter what, because of the Supreme Court case, it does need more left. See, we're gonna hit page 2. Okay, I think this is a good one. This one feels a little bit more neutral, maybe, for snaps. Maybe. Hope so. Praying. Oh, really left. Oh, bad. I was incorrect. Maybe we go back. Maybe I should put out. Yeah, I don't think we're really gonna be. I guess my Supreme Court. What was it? It was Noam. Supreme Court. What is it? Stanford Law. This is Stanford Law Institute, and I feel comfortable using them, even if they are going to lean a little bit more left, purely because it is a reputable institute who takes pride in their work. At least last I checked. Yes. Okay. So, And this is also very left. But remember that while I'm reading this. Oh, this is someone's take. Okay. Oh, here we go. This is much better. I'm gonna check this just so. No, go back. God damn it. Fuck. No, stop. This is dumb. This is dumb. This is dumb. Copy. Check another article. Centered. Awesome. Perfect. This is what I wanted. Issue. Whether the Supreme Court should stay a strict... Oh my god. I had a stroke. Alright. Whether the Supreme Court should stay a district court order preventing federal immigration officers from relying on any combination of 4 factors: parent race or ethnicity, speaking in Spanish or accented English, presence of location where undocumented immigrants are known to gather, and working at specific jobs such as landscaping or construction to justify conducting detective stops in 7 Southern California counties, including Los Angeles. Judgment application is granted on September 8th. Justice Covenant filed a concurring opinion. Justice Sotomayor filed a dissenting opinion, joined by Justice Keegan and Jackson. But it was sustained. Essentially, this is so weird how they formatted this. But essentially, basically, all of these apparent race where how you are speaking, whether you have an accented English or Spanish, the locations where undocumented are known to gather, and working specific jobs, landscape and construction, very stereotypical Hispanic and Latino communities, primarily. So they are now allowed to do all 4 of those things. All 4 of those things. Let's remember that when we're talking about the Diaz Morales' cases, where she was leaving a Taco Bell. She was asked to provide documentation where she is not allowed, she does not have to. She was then incarcerated for 25 days, even after giving ICE such documentation proving that she was a citizen. That's really bad. I don't think I have to explain to you. I don't think I have to baby you through how bad that is. That's not good. And that is just one of 170 cases. So I think I want to go back to the live stream, see how that's going real quick, see what they have to say about.
Complete Orwellian, it's bananas. I mean, it's absolutely impossible for this organization to take this out how it has to be. It needs to be done here in the state of Minnesota. We need to prosecute here in the state of Minnesota. But we need full access to that. Because I trust Tim Walz. I trust our state. I trust our people to get this done. I don't trust Trump.
Oh, I'm seeing people say names. Jonathan Ross in the comment section. One moment. Is this our killer? Is this allegedly? They finally identified him. Thanks, man. Wanna talk politics? Yeah, bot. Hey, Blunt, can I go away? Go away. I didn't think I could ban you myself. It's dumb. We can access is interesting. Yeah, let's not use this article then. Oh, I can't use the AP News? Ooh, AP News. AP News is good. AP News is very good. At least from my... Okay. Okay, then give me... Cool, man. I think because these have come out so quickly, I don't think they've had time. Maybe? I don't know. Not dealing with that. Is today Friday? No, today's Thursday. God bless. God bless. Live updates. ICE officer who shot Renee Good identified in court records as Jonathan Ross. A day after Immigration and Customs Enforcement, officer shot and killed 37-year-old mother of three, Renee Good, as she tried to drive away on a snowy Minneapolis street. Tensions remain high, with dozens of protesters venting their outrage outside the federal facility that is serving as a hub for the Trump administration's latest immigration crackdown on a major city. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem has not publicly identified the officer who shot Good, but she spoke of an incident last June in which the same officer was injured when he was dragged by another driver's fleeing vehicle. A Homeland Security spokesperson confirmed Noem was referring to the incident in Bloomington, Minnesota. Court records from that case identified the officer who was dragged and injured as Jonathan Ross. Court documents say Ross got his arm stuck in the vehicle's window as the drivers fled arrest in Bloomington, Minnesota. The officer was dragged 100 yards, or 91 meters, and cuts to his arm required 50 stitches. The Associated Press wasn't immediately able to locate a phone number or arrest Ross, and ICE no longer has a union that might comment on his behalf. Oh no, ICE doesn't have a union. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. So, it has been discovered that it is Jonathan Ross. That is our... Let's do a little research on good old Johnny boy. Apparently there is a broadcaster named Jonathan Ross that they want us to think about. Who is Jonathan Ross? Let's... And I'm returning the heart. See where this lands. I'm assuming this is going to be a little bit more left-leaning, just purely based on the fact that... Centered! Perf. Brings me joy. The ICE agent who fatally shot Renee Nicole Goodman in Minneapolis on Wednesday is the same officer who was dragged and injured during an arrested attempt last year. Court documents reviewed by Newsweek identify that Agent Jonathan Ross was involved in June 17th apprehension of Robert Carlos Munoz, a convicted sex offender originally from Guatemala, in Bloomington, Minnesota. Why it matters: a mother of three who was driving about a mile from where George Floyd was killed by police, was fatally shot Wednesday in her Honda Pilot after being approached by a group of federal agents working in South Minneapolis. The video shows an Immigration and Customs Enforcement officer then abruptly pulling his weapon and firing at least 2 shots at close range as the pilot accelerated forward despite repeated commands to stop. The video does not clearly show whether the SUV struck the officer. It is unclear if the woman... The video shows that it did not struck. We went step by step on that one, baby. Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. At least from the angle we got. I know there was multiple angles. I know there was. But we know where what that is. Then abruptly pulling his weapon and firing at least 2 shots at close range. The pilot accelerated forward despite being repeated commands to stop. After the shooting, the vehicle slammed into 2 parked cars before coming to a stop. During June 2025 Operation Roscoe. Okay. I've stated this before. I've stated this before. I'll state this again. If you believe, if you cannot handle yourself in a high stress situation as within a high stress job where you have make or break decisions on people's lives, you should not be in that job. I think that's just a blatantly clear statement. I don't think we need to research on that one. I think if you have a high stress job and you cannot handle that high stress job, you shouldn't be in the high stress job. That goes for nurses, that goes for doctors, that goes for even people, caregivers, ranch hands, anything stressful. And if you can't handle it, you don't get to be that. I don't think I need to explain why. If you can't handle your job, you shouldn't have it. That's just point blank. No ifs, ands, or buts. The driver claimed he did not know Ross was a federal agent. A jury rejected the argument last month, convicting him of assault a federal officer with a dangerous weapon. Prosecutors said the suspect accelerated after Ross broke the back window to unlock the door, dragging the agent for more than 100 yards while weaving to shake him loose. Ross eventually broke free, but suffered several injuries to his arms and hands. Message seeking comment from Eric Merkman, a public defender who represented Minzo, did not immediately return to the Newsweek Thursday. Vice President J.D. Vance defended Ross on Thursday, saying the officer deserves a debt of gratitude for his service. This guy who actually done a very, very important job for the United States of America. He has been assaulted, he's been attacked, he's been injured because of it. When did this occur? Okay. Alright, let's talk about this. I'm gonna be blatantly honest, I'm not a very big fan of J.D. Vance and his actions. One, I'm not gonna speak on my personal biases because I do not have articles to support that. I'm just going to read articles and let you come up with the decisions on your own. I think this might also be another left-leaning. I think Newsweek's is a bit of a left-leaning. Oh, we're releasing. We're finally in the right section. We're finally going to the other side. Just for a little bit. Don't worry, ladies and gentlemen. Don't worry. Vice President J.D. Vance defends the ICE agent who fatally shot a woman Wednesday in Minneapolis, saying Jonathan Ross, the officer involved on the incident, has absolute immunity and was doing his job. God, I fucking hate this guy. During a Thursday afternoon press conference at the White House, Vance blasted Democratic Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and radicals for trying to make this guy's life miserable because he was doing the job he was asked to do, calling it preposterous. I don't have words. I don't know how you watch that article, you watch that video, and you read. I just don't know how you see that. I just don't know how one thinks that. This is miserable. Let's just read the rest of the article. In response to a question about Minnesota being cut off from federal investigation into the shooting, Vance said the precedent here is very simple. You have a federal law enforcement official engaging in federal law enforcement action. That is a federal issue. That guy is protected by absolute immunity. He was doing his job. I don't know how Minnesota laws are, but in Colorado, if it used to be, if you were hurt by a department, you could sue the department, but you couldn't sue individuals. They changed that law due to a young child being shot and killed. And a lot of protests over here in Colorado to allow that precedent. I don't think there should ever be federal means you are allowed to do. I think we can all understand that there needs to be correction, that there needs to be accountability regardless of your job or regardless of what comes before officer. Even though he is a federal law enforcement official, that does not make him immune to making mistakes. Does not mean he did not murder that woman. The idea that Tim Walz and a bunch of radicals are going after to make this guy's life miserable because he was doing his job that he was asked to do is preposterous. Let's hear from the horse's mouth.
Thank you for the question. So the head of Minnesota's investigations agency says that the U.S. Attorney's Office has essentially cut off the state investigations agency's access to the investigation. What is the precedent for that, and why shouldn't the Minnesota officials on the ground have access and evidence to work on this investigation?
First of all, I wish the state officials in Minnesota would investigate why you have so many people who are using their vehicles and other means to actually interfere with a legitimate law enforcement operation. The precedent here is very simple. You have a federal law enforcement official engaging in federal law enforcement action. That's a federal issue. That guy is protected by absolute immunity. He was doing his job. The idea...
Let's just discuss absolute immunity real quick. Let's just talk about that real quick. We love Wiki. But, as for prosecutors, let's say Stanford Law. We'll just read the abstract real quick. That's gonna be kind of like not the move. Let's just talk about this. Absolute immunity. In the United States law, absolute immunity is a type of sovereign immunity for government officials that confers complete immunity from criminal prosecution and suits for damages so long as the officials are acting within the scope of their duties. Remember that, ladies and gentlemen. The Supreme Court of the United States has consistently held the government officials deserve some type of immunity from lawsuit for damages, and common law recognizes this immunity. The court reasons that immunity is necessary to protect public officials from excess interference with their responsibility from potentially disabling threats of liability. Absolute immunity contrasts the qualified immunity, which means it contracts within qualified immunity, which sometimes applies when certain officials may have violated constitutional right or federal law. So, essentially what J.D. Vance is implying that there was no misconduct whatsoever, that the use of a deadly weapon and 2 shots into a citizen's face is within the scope of his protected immunity. I think that's complete fucking bullshit. If you couldn't have already guessed. So let's get into it, you know? I think we all understand that there is absolute immunity only applies for those working under the scope of what their duties are, not every federal officer has absolute immunity. And I don't think I need to explain to you why this officer should not have that. But let's listen to the rest of the slop he has to produce.
And a bunch of radicals in Minneapolis are going to go after and make this guy's life miserable because he was doing the job that he was asked to do is preposterous.
So it's very interesting. I've been reading all the articles. I read all of this one, but the fatal shooting of Renee Nicole Good, a 37-year-old mother, has drawn more scrutiny towards ICE and the Trump administration tactics in their pursuit of mass deportation. The Department of Homeland Security, DHS, has alleged that Good sought to weaponize her vehicle against Ross and feared for her life. That he feared for his life, but the critics have disputed the characterization, arguing that the video footage of the shooting shows that she was attempting to drive away at the time that the shooting, and that the shooting was unnecessary. We went step by step. I don't need to reiterate what we already talked about. Speaking at the White House, Vance said the ICE officer deserves a debt of gratitude and defends the shooting as justified. He cited a prior incident involving the same officer who was injured during an enforcement action earlier this year. This guy who's actually done a very, very important job for the United States of America, end quote. Vance said, quote, he's been assaulted, he's been attacked, he's been injured because of it, end quote. Court documents reviewed by Newsweek show that Ross, who served within ICE for 9 years, was previously involved in an operation to apprehend a man prosecutors said was in the country illegally. During this encounter, Ross broke a vehicle window to reach inside to open the door as the driver sped off, dragging him about the length of a football field in roughly 12 seconds. A FBI agent applied a tourniquet to the officer's bleeding arm. He later received dozens of stitches for multiple cuts and abrasions. Vance said he is not concerned about prejudging an investigation that is still underway and described Good's death as a tragedy of her own making. End quote. I don't think I need to explain why that's horrendous. I don't think I need to explain why that's fucking disgusting. At the end of the day, a woman with 3 beautiful children and a loving wife died. The fact that you're going to call it a tragedy of her own making makes you a despicable human being. God, I feel like I'm going to throw up. Alright. What you see is what you get in this case, he said, framing the shooting as an act of self-defense and describing Good as a victim of the left-wing ideology, who he said had been encouraged to interfere with law enforcement. Vance also criticized media coverage of the shooting, saying journalists had failed to portray the incident as an attack on law enforcement. The way the media, by and large, has reported the story has been an absolute disgrace, he said. I'm not going to pull up the video again. We already talked about it. It's already there. You can go watch it. But they walked up to her. Yes, she could have been saying whatever she wants. But you know who's not allowed to ever, constitutionally, ever enforce any kind of law based off what someone says? The government. It's almost like that First Amendment right is really, really important nowadays. Really important and really forgotten. God. Okay. Civil rights groups, Democrats call for investigation. Good was a U.S. citizen born in Colorado who had been repeatedly moved to Minnesota. She had no known criminal record beyond a traffic violation, according to the public records. On social media, she described herself as a poet, writer, wife, and mother. Civil rights leaders and Democratic officials sharply criticized the federal government's handling of the case. Waltz said the decision to cut Minnesota out of the investigation undermined the confidence of its outcome. I don't know. Part of me, with the undercutting of Minnesota, I get where people are coming from of feeling like that undermines state legislature where it does, but we also have to remember this is also the state legislature that mishandled the George Floyd case. So I do think federal government handling the case is probably a better decision. Now, this is me stating that with the hope and trust that the federal government will handle this case as it should. Unfortunately, though J.D. Vance does not talk for the federal government, it's not looking great. Based on just his action and his words. Walz said the decision to cut Minnesota out, confidence of its outcome. Undermined confidence in its outcome. The National Urban League called for the ICE officer to be suspended for a full investigation, citing long-standing law enforcement policies that generally prohibit firing and moving vehicles except in narrowly defined circumstances. Democratic leaders in Congress said they are considering oversight actions. House of Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffers called the killing an abomination, while Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer said he watched the video of the incident and called for a full investigation. It's interesting. I don't have a lot of faith. I really hope that both my protesting and others protesting and the fact that the U.S. citizens are upset with this current situation hopefully brings some light and hopefully makes those in power rethink their decision on this. I do really hope they do suspend him. I do hope he gets due process the way she deserved. I do hope that he is tried at the full extent of the law for what he did. And let's just hope. There's only so much as an individual we can do. That is why, once again, go protest. You can donate to Renee Nicole Goods GoFundMe. I have it in my description. If you want to go donate to that, that'd be amazing. But I think we just have to hope that our administration, or not even our administration, I have no faith in this administration, but that at least the federal government, when investigating this, will actually take this into there will be actual consequences for these actions. I truly, truly hope. But, President Donald Trump wrote on Truth Social, the woman driving the car was very disorderly, obstructing, and resisting, who then violently, willfully, and viciously ran over the ICE officer, who seems to have shot in self-defense. Based on the attached clip, it is hard to believe he is alive. Let me just read the whole clip. Let me just read the whole quote. But is now recovering in the hospital. The situation is being studied in its entirety, but the reason these incidents are happening is because the radical left is threatening, assaulting, and targeting our law enforcement officers and ICE agents on a daily basis. They're trying to do the job of making America safe. We need to stand and protect our law enforcement officers from this radical left movement of violence and hate. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we should keep a Donald Trump lie tracker. And let's use some sticky notes, you know? They need an update, apparently. I'm going to keep this for myself, but if you ever want and ever need or ever wonder how many lies we have blatantly seen from Donald J. Trump, the fact that it is viciously ran over the ICE officer. I don't know if we remember the video, and honestly at this point I think after this I am just going to Trump lies counter. We're at 1. We're at 1. That's just blatantly untrue. Simply, I'll pull up the video again. I will. I'll pull up the video. Where's the video? There we go. Once again, she pulls away.
37-year-old.
Viciously ran over. Viciously ran over. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. That's exactly what just happened. That's exactly what that is. Unharmed, still standing on 2 feet, didn't even get knocked over. I needed that to be seen. It's hard to believe he is alive. I don't understand why he would be in the hospital if he never got hit by the car. And what's so hard about this is that someone who is on the right is just going to read the Truth Social. They're not going to watch the video. And they're just going to take that they're going to take that and call that what they believe on. They're not going to do the research. They're not going to go through articles like me and you have. They are going to take what this man has practically shit on a plate and handed to him and eat it up. Let's just go to the next one. Homeland Security Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin on X today. ICE officers in Minneapolis were conducting targeted operations while rioters began blocking ICE officers. One of those violent rioters weaponized her vehicle, attempting to run over our law enforcement officers in an attempt to kill them. An act of domestic terrorism. We already talked about this. I don't need to talk further, but we already know that's bullshit. An ICE officer, fearing for his life, the lives of his fellow law enforcement, and safety of the public, fired defensive shots. He used his training and saved his own life, and that of his fellow officers. The shooting remains under investigation. Republicans currently control Congress and have supported ICE after the shooting. How Democrats may approach this issue as they take back control of Congress in the midterms, and whether there may be more of the party embraces calls to abolish the agency remains unseen. Well, to give my personal take, I think it's very obvious that the administration, rather than admitting fault where it is blatant, they are just going to lie and stick their heads in the sand. Because why want to see more of the protests live. Interesting that there's a lot of. I was just kind of reading a little bit. A lot of Trump support in these comments. So interesting. I mean, but here's the thing. Though there's so many people who are going to be in these comment sections, a lot of them are probably young kids who just don't know better. I wouldn't take anything in the live chat for anything too serious. The real adults are out on the street. It's so interesting because that's San Diego. We have Dallas and then Dallas Fort Worth. I'm shocked there isn't anything going on in Colorado because, like, personally, I'd pull up. Personally, I'd already be gone. I'd be in my car going down, you know? I know there's that, and I talked about the protest that's going to happen tomorrow. And really, I mean, there might be protests. I would assume there's probably protests going on in Denver. I'm just not seeing any. Oh, sure. Mostly just in Indianapolis. Is that one? this. In Minnesota, that's not really what's going on currently, though. In Washington, we have. It's just Fox News. So mainly in Dallas tonight. So kind of Minnesota, Texas. Not seeing a whole lot in Colorado, which is interesting because Colorado was where she's from. Though I think that's why. They're doing the protest tomorrow. Because I think people knew these were going to be huge tonight. Let's go back to this. So interesting. It's so interesting because I would put money that a lot of these people who are talking about, who are really I was just probably I'm glad people are protesting. I think that is such a good use of your First Amendment right. I'm closing this chat. I have no reason to watch them. But yeah, I think I've stated the reasons why I think the way I think. We've gone through it. I've shown you the articles. I've shown you the biases of said articles. I don't think there's much else I can talk about in this situation. 170 U.S. citizens in 2025, just from October of 2025, were detained. We talked about Miss Diaz and how the fact that she was detained for 25 days, missing both major holidays with her family, even after showing proof of her being a citizen. And then we talked about the fact that the man has been identified, Jonathan Ross. Though I doubt you're watching this very small streamer who has very big ideas. I hope you rot. I genuinely hope you do. I think anyone who supports this kind of tyrannicalism, I really hope you educate yourself. Really hope I can be an educative format for you. I know reading isn't y'all's strong suit, but maybe you can put me in the background and eat food, you know? Or whatever you need to do with your constant stimulation. Put me on the TV, you watch TikToks. I don't care. But it has been one. It's been interesting. We have shown that Trump essentially lied about the situation, which is not going to help anyone in the long term. He's not going to be called out for it whatsoever. He's not going to be reprimanded for that. I don't expect anything. I just hope Renee Nicole Goodman gets the justice she deserves. I hope she gets justice at the end of the day. This was a tragedy, not of her own making, of a tyrannical administration's making. And so I'm glad to have been able to research with you guys. I'm tired. I'm not gonna lie to you. It has been a long day. And tomorrow I'm gonna go to the Denver Capitol. I'm going to be protesting along with my fellow citizens. And I just hope we all can come together. I hope the administration witnesses the uproar. I hope the pain is heard, because she did not deserve what happened to her. No one deserves what happened to her. Regardless of the situation, a human life is a human life at the end of the day. And I just hope we are able to maybe come to a consensus, maybe be able to fix things before it's too late. This is a very big breaking point for a lot of people. And I don't think the administration's ready for that. But I hope they are, and I hope they're able to accept criticism, and I hope they're able to change. And that's all we really can hope for, you know? But, just hit my foot. But on a lighter note, I hope you guys have a great rest of your night. Though the world is burning, and though the world is crazy, take time for yourself. At the end of the day, we can only do so much, and that is staying informed and protesting. So continue to do that. Continue to inform your fellow citizens, and continue to inform yourself. Thank you guys so much.